Hi everyone and welcome to my channel and to today's short video where I'm going to discuss how I create my videos. I've already made a video all about camera positions and another one all about lighting, but many of you have asked how I actually edit together my videos. So I'm going to give you a quick rundown of all the different options you have for editing together many different types of video. From shorter promotional to longer tutorials. We'll talk about editing softwares and all the things that you need to consider before you start. Please do hit the subscribe button here on YouTube if you like this. Mostly my videos are all about soft pastel, but sometimes I do veer off into other bigger topics that any artist might find interesting. And I hope that you find this one helpful. I've played around with making videos for many years, but it's only really in the last couple of years that I feel truly able to make a reasonably high quality video. It's a long learning curve, just like learning any new medium. Many of you have asked how I go about editing my videos. Well, in a short one like this, I won't actually be able to show you from start to finish how to edit a whole video on Premiere Pro, for example, because that in itself is a pretty steep learning curve. But what I can do is point you in the right direction for the type of video you're wanting to make and give you some important tips that I wish I had known at the start. So let's start with shorter promotional videos and using free softwares, because that's a great place to start if you're pretty new to making videos. Reels and stories on Instagram, for example, provide a great outlet for this content. TikTok and other platforms are making video content the way to go. To film these, maybe you're using your camera phone, and that's totally fine. You can also use some editing software on your phone to make these videos slick. Then posting directly to social media from your phone is easy. I have an app called InShot and it's a pretty good video editor. There is a free version which I got first, just to test it and see how much I would use it. And there are some benefits to upgrading, but you could survive with the free version. The free apps and softwares tend to be a little bit more user-friendly due to less features, and they're kind of geared towards people who are beginners. So if you're just making simple promotional videos, that's probably the way to go. But let's say you want to film the entire painting process and, for example, make a time lapse. Now, the difficulty of this will greatly depend on the type of artist that you are. If you're like me and you like to work in lots of detail, then you're going to end up with hours and hours of footage to deal with. If you're a bit more expressionistic and you can crack out a painting in an hour, then you're pretty lucky because you're going to have less footage and a smaller number of files to deal with. The first problem you'll encounter is where to keep all of that footage. The file sizes are pretty big and you can't keep them on your computer, otherwise it will want to explode pretty soon. You can use the cloud for storage, so online storage, or you can also back up all of your footage, all of your files on hard drives like this. But neither of these options is cheap. And it's definitely one of the unforeseen expenditures that I did not consider when I first started making tutorials. So the first computer program that I'll talk about will also be a piece of free software. iMovie is the first free program that I used to edit together my first time-lapse, my very first video experiment. And iMovie is great because the layout is very simple. If you're new to this type of editing software though, you will still need to spend a little time figuring it out. I already had good knowledge of Adobe Photoshop, Illustrator, even GarageBand, which is more for music. But those types of programs, so this was not too much of a leap for me. But in its essence, you have a timeline where you can organize your clips, you can crop, add transitions, even speed up to create a time lapse. The main problem with free softwares is once you start to bring in multiple large files, the program can struggle to cope with it. If you're talking many hours of footage, then you need a lot of power to deal with it. 4 years ago, the first tutorial that I ever made for Patreon took 2 days to render. Now this was an hour-long tutorial and it took almost 48 hours to render. That was due to older software, also an old laptop. And I quickly realized that could not continue and I needed to upgrade my gear. The most powerful computer available to your budget is what you want when video editing. And remember to keep your computer as clean and clear as possible to allow all of the power to go towards fueling your important applications. So if you're not looking to invest in a better application or a better piece of software, the likes of iMovie will serve you very well, but it will have its limitations if you're looking to make longer videos. And that's where Adobe Premiere Pro comes in for me. This application costs money, but I love all the Adobe applications and I get a huge amount of use from Photoshop and Premiere Pro especially. I would liken this application to Photoshop in terms of complexity, but if you already know how to use Photoshop, you'll be fairly familiar with this type of layout. Like iMovie, it has a timeline, but the features and options here are endless. You have a lot more control over the editing and a lot more power to deal with the tasks. Obviously, having a bigger, more powerful computer is a great help, but these applications that you pay for are made for professional use and they're designed to be able to deal with these larger files. Now, I can talk you through a small amount of what I do on Premiere Pro to piece together one of my videos. But if you're serious about doing this, you really will have to just learn about one of these softwares and then practice too. Because honestly, I still get stuck sometimes and I literally go to YouTube and search for the answer and I always find it. So that's the wonderful thing these days about being able to find so much information online. And taking the time to learn about one of these popular softwares will stand you really well in the future because you can apply a lot of that knowledge to lots of other softwares that are similar. But in its essence, here's a quick rundown of what exactly I do when I bring my video footage into the computer. Firstly, put all your video files from the camera onto the computer. Back them up on hard drives or the cloud, but while you're working on the project, have them on your computer. This actually makes rendering faster as the information is not traveling through extra cables. Then once you've finished with that project, you can just delete them off the computer to leave it free. I then bring my raw files into Premiere Pro. I can trim the start and end of each clip and then drag it into my timeline. From here, I might want to add in the photo reference for a tutorial, edit out some dead space where I'm having to think off camera, add color codes, add narration. Each time I'm adding more layers and adding to the complexity of the project. You can preview it here using a lower quality so that it takes less power. And when you're happy with your video, you need to render it and export it out of the application as a single file. Now that process alone takes a little bit of figuring out, but again, there are many tutorials out there on this. Once I have my MP4 file or whatever format I choose to save it in, I can upload this wherever. Now I pretty much use Adobe Premiere Pro for all of my videos, so my longer video tutorials, these instructional videos on my YouTube channel, my time-lapse videos, but even with knowing how to do all of that, I think I've still only scratched the surface of Premiere Pro, but that's all I need to make my videos. So don't be put off by how complicated it all seems. You really only need a very basic understanding to get you going. So just to recap, the type of video that you're looking to make will greatly affect the type of editing software that you need. If it's short and simple, check out some of the free softwares for your phone or your computer. For more complicated, longer videos, still, I recommend to check out some of the free softwares, especially if you're just getting started. But if you want to produce really professional looking material, then I would always highly recommend getting on board with one of the more professional applications. Secondly, make sure that your computer can actually handle the workload. The older machines, of course, will struggle to handle the bigger file sizes created by modern cameras. So you may need to upgrade your computer to do it as well. And lastly, like I mentioned, don't overlook storage and the importance of keeping your computer clean and fresh and able to do the work. I hope that I've gone into enough detail in this video to at least point you in the right direction. The more professional videos that you want to make, well, the more time and money you can expect to invest. But don't let that put you off getting started. Every one of us online these days had to learn how to do this as well, and you can too. Be sure to check out my other videos on this topic, and I have a ton of other videos here on my YouTube channel if you're interested in soft pastel. I hope you'll stick around and subscribe if you like it. Also consider checking me out on Patreon, where I have my full library of real-time tutorials, mostly showing techniques in soft pastel, and you can browse my available tutorials at emmacolbertart.com. But thanks for watching this here. My regular sign off is happy pasteling, which isn't really relevant in this video, so instead, happy editing.